What's up guys, this is Eric with Verus Engineering, and before you see our first and second generation washer fluid reservoir. Now you might be asking yourself, why do you need something this cool? Because it is cool, guys, it really is. And that's because if you're running a brake cooling system or maybe a turbo kit, you have to remove that gigantic washer fluid reservoir from the factory, and that thing holds over a gallon, so you're talking about an additional probably 10 pounds on the nose of your car. These are extremely lightweight aluminum and reduce the volume down to, I believe it's a quart or a liter. So the GR86 one includes a little additional hardware and this 3D printed bracket. This bracket is because this washer fluid reservoir is actually at a 90-degree when it's installed. So you install the bracket and then we bolt it on, and that allows this to not just dangle when we install it. So that's what's different with the GR86. Each one has a different base and lid at the end of the day, and that's because the washer fluid, OEM washer fluid reservoirs are a little bit different in diameter, as you may be able to see. So that hole has to be different. The hole for the washer fluid pumps have to be ever so slightly different. And then we had to add a bracket for the GR86 one, or the second generation units, versus the first generation units, which will just slide right on and not have an issue there. So we're gonna go ahead and assemble the GR86 one because that's the one we're gonna be installing today. The install between the first generation and the second generation are gonna be very, very similar. The bumper's gonna remove a little bit differently, and then obviously on the GR86 we don't have to install this bracket, or I mean on the BRZ we don't have to install this bracket, but otherwise the install and how we go about installing this is going to be very similar. So we're going to do one install manual for both vehicles and hope that that suffices for those out there. So we're going to, again, assemble this guy real quick on camera, and then we're going to start working on the car. All right, as far as tools required for this install, I think I have everything, but I may not have everything to do the bumper removal because it's just, I don't exactly remember how the bumpers get removed at this point. But we have a drill with a step drill bit, 3/8 inch step on it. You can use also a 3/8 inch drill or slightly larger for that rivet nut that we have to install. We have sealant to protect that hole that you're going to drill. We have some Loctite to ensure that the bolts don't back off over time. 5mm Allen socket, 6-inch extension, 3/8 ratchet, 9/16 wrench, 10mm socket on an impact, 3mm Allen wrench to tighten those M5 bolts, and a flathead screwdriver. All right, so we have a Buna N O-ring. We're going to install this in that O-ring groove on the machined piece. O-ring is installed. We're then going to place this like so. I believe that, yeah. So this is going to be the forward side, and this is the back side. We are installing the M5 by 0.8 button head cap screws with an M5 washer onto the can with just a hint of red Loctite. Blue Loctite would be acceptable. We're using red because that's what we have readily available. I'm going to use a very small amount. I'm not going crazy tight on these. Going like maybe 3 to 4 foot-pounds. It's going into aluminum, so don't go crazy with it. Keep in mind you are crushing an O-ring, so it does like kind of, it gets tight and then it kind of stays with like this similar resistance, and then you'll actually bottom it out and you'll feel. All right, so we pulled this and the factory pump off the washer fluid. So we're going to install this into the can first. You can use a little bit of grease here if you'd like. I haven't found it necessary because it'll install pretty easily. We're going to then place this over this like so, and we're going to firmly press that on, kind of work its way in. Last piece of the puzzle is going to be installing this O-ring from the factory neck. This goes in that large plastic piece, and then the neck goes down into it, and it comes up and into the engine bay. So we're just going to install that now. So we have the first gen in front of us. Install is going to be very similar, so I'm going to rush through it. But again, O-ring, tiny bit of Loctite, top cover, and then we're going to install these O-rings. You can see here, this one is for the pump, and then this is for the neck. So those are the two differences there. Both units are assembled off a vehicle. We have to remove the bumper to install these. So if you have a splitter on your car, you're likely going to have to remove the bumper to remove this splitter. If you don't, then cool. But we're going to remove our splitter, and it's barely bolted on anyway because we're doing BRZ air dam testing anyway. We also have a link to a bumper removal that we feel is fairly comprehensive. Alex found that, and that is linked below. So if you want to go find that and check that out, go for it. All right, so this is more or less where the GR86 washer fluid reservoir resides. So I believe it bolts on somewhere up there, or maybe a clip. Honestly, it's been so long since we took it off. And then this goes in that little hole down there. But the washer fluid pump goes right here. It's got that O-ring, and we remove this guy, and then the connector, and then this will kind of snake its way out. And then, like I said earlier, this is it's a two-piece unit, so we're gonna take this out and we're gonna actually reuse this, and we're gonna put it in there. So to get this piece ready to go in our can, I'm gonna use this raised section, and I'm just gonna cut it. So we have our assembled washer fluid can that's gonna go up here, and it's gonna use that bolt hole, which already is threaded. That's an M6. And then we're going to open up this hole right here in the chassis to also accept an M6 rivet nut. So we're gonna drill that out to 3/8 inch, and we're gonna install a rivet nut, and then both of these are gonna bolt on with M6 socket head cap screws, and that's gonna be how this stays in place. All right, for those wondering, I use a step drill bit in this type of stuff. It seems to work better. It doesn't grab and rip your arm off, so highly recommend a step drill bit in this case. So now we're gonna install this rivet nut now that the hole is just over 3/8 inch. And if you want to do some rust protection here, I would recommend it. That's not a problem. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use sealant. I find that to be pretty good and solid. Putting some sealant on the rivet nut, and this is gonna basically act like a shield from the elements, so that place that can rust, that steel on the chassis side, is not gonna hopefully rust. So this is our rivet nut install tool that is included in the kit. We're gonna use a 9/16 wrench. We're gonna hold that steady, and then we're gonna tighten the 5mm bolt until it gets tight in the chassis. We also have a video on how to install a rivet nut. All right, now it's starting to finally mushroom that backside, and it's starting to tighten up, and you can feel it, and it's getting a little bit more resistant. As you can see, a bunch of sealant, which is gonna seal out that water, which would cause the rust. So hopefully no rust in the future. All right, so we have our can. We're gonna use the small M6 washer on this side. We're going to try to allow the camera to see things, but probably not. Okay, just kidding, I got it. And then on the forward-facing bolt, which you may be able to see, maybe not, we're gonna use the 18mm washer. We're gonna snake this up in there, push this up, and hope that it goes in. I'm using a 6-inch extension with a 5mm socket, Allen, 5mm Allen socket, and 3/8 drive, and it seems to work pretty well to get to those bolts, and I'm just tightening those to pretty damn tight, but not crazy tight. Like I said, about 8 foot-pounds, probably gonna be good. I'm gonna cut this, like I said, in the step. All right, so we are putting this in, and it's gonna go into our can. All right, and then we're gonna slowly push that in. Now it's in. All right, so we are going to reuse the factory, what do you want to call it, plastic rivet. Push it on, and then it is connected. We're just gonna toss it down in there, and then we're gonna throw our cap on. Finish the install. We're gonna plug this in just like we undid the factory one. So plug that washer fluid line in, like so, and then we're gonna plug our connector in. All right, guys, that concludes the install. We went from this to that. That's basically to make room for that brake cooling kit or maybe charge pipes if you have a supercharger or a turbocharger. This, again, holds 1 liter of fluid, so you're able to continue to have a working washer fluid reservoir, which is awesome, airtight or watertight. And yeah, until next time, I'm Eric, I'm out. Be sure to check it out on our website. We have them for the GR86 and BRZ, 2nd generation. We also have them for the 1st generation FRS BRZ GT86, just a little bit different.